Elite Assembly. Step up, see flash is the ToyLeet crew. We're the kings of the game, yeah, the chosen few. From the shadows we rise with the rarest finds. Collect them, respect them, we're one of a kind. ToyLeet, reign the streets. Elite with the feats in this collectible feast. ToyLeet, never discreet. When the heart of the beat, we're all playmates me. Check our stacks, our collections supreme. Limited editions, every collector's dream. We're the myths, we're the legends, with every drop. Taking over the block, we never stop. In the alleys where the echoes play. ToyLeet's the name, hear what we say. Rising, thriving, always thriving. In our realm we're always thriving. ToyLeet, reign in the street, the live ToyLeet. Setting the pace, with a snap of the case and a click of the lock. ToyLeet's on top and we're ready to rock. Collecting more than just toys, we're up. We're up. We're up. ToyLeet, never discreet. When the heart of the beat, we're all playmates me. We're the tree, we're the ToyLeet. What's the flow? Cause in this zone, we never admit defeat. Come for the thrill, stay for the chase. ToyLeet's in the place, set in the pace.
What's up, everybody?
Sorry, hey man, what's up, dude? Just still trying. There's so many things going on. I got to make sure it's all
Too
in
many
order, brother.
buttons for that old man like you.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere, man. How's it going, brother?
Doing good, bro. What's happening?
Cool, man. Good. Life's good. Can't complain. Feeling good. Got all my medical stuff in line from last time, so feeling good.
Excellent.
There. Enjoyed a good weekend. Pretty packed week this week with my 9 to 5, but otherwise pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I've been busy, just tinkering around, doing some work for the HDT boys over at Hella Dope, and living life.
That's the job, man. That's the goal, right? Just enjoy every day, one day at a time. Good deal. Cool, man. So I'm just going to give everyone kind of a brief intro to what the ToyLeet Takeover is about, right? First, he's Ed Akxion Figs,
and he's Travis, Mr. Wundrful,
and together we are
ToyLeet, the ToyLeet.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So, the idea here is we love to talk our passion about plastic toys and the toy adjacent, as we kind of refer to it. A lot of pop culture stuff, comics, cartoons, TV shows, things like that. So we'll talk about that stuff. We always have a kind of a standard approach to the show. We got a shout out to the critics. We got our ToyLeet or ToyLit segment. We have our weekly news, and then we always have a main topic. This week we got some special guests joining us. They're in the green room, getting ready to join us here shortly. We did kind of omit a couple things, so we do have a large panel we're going to be going through tonight. We'll talk a little bit more of that as we go through, but there's a ton of shows out there you can watch. There's some boring ones that go like almost 3-4 hours on Monday nights. Sometimes he gets to a topic within the first couple hours, but you can get your toy news about those Hasbros and, Mattel figures, things like that, NECA, the bigger name brand stuff. We stick to our independent toys. That's what we like. It's where a lot of our dollars are spent. So, we do still collect some of the mainline stuff, but we like to focus our news and our toys, talk about that stuff. Yeah. So,
and real quick, just so everybody knows, we're going to be waiting to hit the chat until after we bring on the guests. So if we're not ignoring the chat, we're going to wait till we'll introduce everybody, then we'll say hi to everybody at once. So
absolutely.
So pickups.
Did you get anything? Yeah, did you get anything cool this week?
Yeah, I got a couple good things in from the boys over at Hella Dope Toys. I got the Marvel Legends Kazar, whatever you want to call them. That be the one. And then I got the retro carded Duke and the classified Airborne figure. All really cool figures. Love them all. The Airborne figure is a really good figure. He was one of my favorite characters as a kid, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to like the figure, but really cool figure for sure.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, good deal.
How about you? I know you
I
had a
got a
toy
couple
show you
things.
went to this weekend.
Well, it was Albany Comic Con here. It's local
Yeah.
to us. It's actually been going on. I think it was like its 17th year. They typically do they do two. They do one in like the May June time frame, and then they always do one in that like late October, early November time frame. It's a good showing. They have a lot of cool comic designers, comic folks involved in the comic industry, writers, artists, things like that. It's I want to say like maybe like 30 tables or so. But there are a few vendors in there that come in with toys, and the guy that puts the show on is the same local comic book shop like 5 minutes down the road from me that I always go to. Uh, as I told you, I was kind of fanboying it last week, right, Ed? Is like Saturday night when I was looking at the attendees for Sunday, I was like, oh, there's this guy Paul Harding who he does a lot of the sculpts. He actually did the sculpts for Kazar. He's done a bunch of the Joe sculpts and stuff like that. So like when I realized that, I was like, holy cow, I got to meet this guy. Luckily, he had another one of those Kazar figures on the shelf, so I had him autograph it, and it actually just went up on my shelf over here. I know I showed you that I got the whole lot from Helidope like a week or so ago. Started busting that open a couple days ago, but it was a cool toy con. I did get this really cool, for anybody who's into like that fantasy realm stuff. I did get this at one of the booths there. It's like some Mayan temple, like Dio. The 1/6 scale works perfect with the Savage Crucibles and those savage type characters that I'm really into. So I got that, and I ended up getting Mutt and Junkyard while I was at one of the comic book stores down that way, and then my son got a couple items too. He was grabbed a couple Star Wars Black Series, so nothing major. I know I got a bunch of stuff that I'm looking at pre-ordering. Creatures in the Mozoic or whatever.
And you got you got a Duke comic book or something you're saying?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I snagged this when I was at the comic book store. Got the I think it's like the first 5 for the Duke series that they just came out with. So I snagged that at the comic book store. It's volume 1. It's just
all 5 of them in one book.
Yeah, it's the 5 like graphic novel. It's the bigger series, but it's all 5 of the first Duke series. So yeah, it looks pretty cool. The guy at the comic book store said, feedback was pretty good. And I like reading different things. I haven't had a chance to open it up and read it yet, but I definitely will.
And did you get anything that's shelf worthy?
Did I get anything that's shelf worthy? That's a good thing. I think that can lead us into the next piece.
God, if you have a weak stomach, you may stop right here. Anybody hungry?
So I did get that series last week, and I opened up it. That's that whole Kazar Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure. So you can see here I have what is it, Zabu? I think, right, Ed?
Yep, Zabu.
Yes, I got Zabu. Works great with the Marvel Legends, but he also works good with my Savage Crucible, my Mythic Legions, my He-Man Masters Universe figures that I have and collect, and the AWOCs. I wanted to get more of these mounts. There's a couple other ones out there. But he's got the mid-waist swivel joint. The head goes up and down. It's got 3 pieces of articulation in each one of the legs, and even the tail's a little bit mobile. So I was really pleased with this. I bought that entire series, with the exception of the Iron Man because he didn't come with a bath. And what I did was I just bought that for this reason. And this is definitely shelf worthy. I'm really happy with this. My son did come into the room and steal it from me yesterday and take it in there with the Joes. And with
is that the Mayan Dio he's standing on?
Yeah. Let me see. I can kind of. Oop, sorry, going too high there. But you can kind of see if I turn the right way.
Nice. That thing's got some detail to it, man. And you said that was actually really 1/6 scale, right?
Yeah, it's 1/6 scale, but it works a couple steps. And I actually I posted some. I think I sent you some pictures directly. I don't think I posted them on Instagram, but some stuff with some of the Savage Crucible and what's his name there? I can't remember the main character's name right now, but one of those guys, and really enjoyed it. So that is not a flusher. That's a shelf guy. That's nice. I say shelf, but it'll probably end up in my bag, right? He'll probably be in my bag that me and my son take out to the woods.
Gotta go in the backpack.
Outdoor figure, snapping. So that's the ToyLeet or ToyLeet. It is not a flusher. I might have a hard time going down to begin with, but it's a good figure. I think folks, and I saw the retail value on that thing on eBay when you buy it. People are paying way too much for that. Just go to Helidope, buy the whole series if they have it. I actually think they might be out and they only have a few of the figures left. go start gathering them together because the BAF is a really cool figure.
Yeah, I know they're out of Kazar because I got the last one from them guys. So
Gotcha. Cool, man.
So let's roll through the news real quick, and then we'll bring our guest in.
Yeah. Awesome. So before we go into the news, we like to go through and we like to give a little preview for the main topic. So we'll go ahead and get that here.
June is the time to celebrate. G.I. Joe heroes, they truly great. From 1/6 to 112 and 1/18 scale, the legends live, let's excel. Your June, the ultimate celebration. G.I. Joe fans across the nation with special guests. We're gonna dive into the world where Joe's come alive. He's come alive. G.I. Joe is there. Marvel's there. They come with toys. Duckworth Studios bringing the joys. Joe has ahead. The future's bright. G.I. Joe's legacy shining light. Your June, the ultimate celebration. G.I. Joe fans across the nation with special guests. We're gonna dive into the world where Joe's come alive. Join the fun heroes unite. ToyLeet Takeover, shine bright like subscribe and join the chant. Your June, when the Joes are out.
So that's going to be the main topic. We got Largo and we've got Jeff and we've got Lawrence Pump with Toys coming. So we'll get into that after the news here. So in a brief news thing here, we're going to go ahead.
Live from the news desk.
If I'm going to do this, I'll need my news team at my side.
So weekly news, right? A little soundbite there from the anchor man, but what we've got is on the first piece here is another logo, New Time. I came across on Instagram there, Ed. It's Radioactive Dudes. They got an Instagram out there and a big, decent Facebook presence. I can't tell if this is like, actually injection molded or whatnot, but I thought it was really cool. Kind of reminded me like Toxic Crusaders look and feel. It doesn't look like it's got much articulation, so it may just be a resin print with very limited articulation, but I thought it looked cool, so I wanted to share it. It is up for pre-order, and it looks like it's a second figure in the series that the original kind of characters and stuff are coming from. Basically, there's they've got Ecto Narc, some other figures, but they come with the cool packaging, some accessories and stuff. And to me, it was just the bright colors.
Looks straight out of the 80s.
Yeah, it's about 5 inches. Yeah, it's like late 80s, early 90s kind of stuff there. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I'll keep my eye on it and keep you guys posted. It looked new and fresh and thought it'd be interesting to kind of focus on. So check that stuff out. They're out on Instagram. You can look up Rad Radioactive Dudes and give it a look. But, the packaging and figure overall look really cool to me. The next one is a pretty cool one, Riot Press Productions. And this one here, they just showed off their JoeFest exclusive. It's going to be debuting there. I don't know if it's actually going to be for pickup or pre-order or what their intentions are. I don't have those details, but I thought it looked cool for anybody who's like a Joe or a Vala Action Force, collector, or somebody who's going to be getting into the Monster Force. Looks like a cool 6-inch scale figure. I think they call it American Ninja X, and it should be in some presence there at JoeFest in a couple weeks. So
nice.
Definitely check this out, Ed. If it's there for sale, I want you to grab me one. So we'll definitely need to talk, and I'll kick you some Venmo. Yeah, this one looks cool. I don't know much about Riot Press. It's more comic book stuff, it looked like, from what I've seen, and they have some other stuff. Have you seen these guys before, Ed?
I've heard of Riot Press, but only in the comic book world.
Okay, cool.
I'll definitely check in that table out, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the figure looks good. I mean, it looks like it'll slide right in with the 6-inch scale figures that we're all using right now, and then a lot of us collect. So yeah, just a little brief intro to that. New logo, new brand that we'll be sharing. Keep our eye on. Another one that we'll put in the library and keep people updated on. Savage Crucible, a little quick update here. They have some images here that I saw over on Savage Crucible, kind of highlighting the figures that came out. they did recently announce that because the slate was like such a huge win, and I think everyone that went in on the Kickstarter didn't realize how many slates they, wish they could have their hands on. But Rob Post, he's also a huge advocate for not like re-releasing something like just as is. And that was one of the big things with Savage Crucible is you got to get it when you can get it because they aren't going to re-release the same thing. And following that kind of approach, they did like a secret, order and, of the shadow slate. So it's a different color slate, comes with a couple different things. And those were in stock over the weekend at their show. And I saw them on their stream that happened last Wednesday, and they look really cool. I'll definitely be getting some of those. I think they're $20. There's supposed to be a limit of 5 per household. And they all go on sale this Friday on the 14th. They don't announce the time, but they definitely will have those in stock along with whatever other Wave 1 items, with the exception of the Conclusive, because that Conclusive Imperial Sentry you can only get at the conventions, or if you had purchased it, as part of the Kickstarter. But all of the other figures, you should be able to, try to snag some of those off of the in-stock sale that they have on Friday. I think that's going to go quick, but I'm planning to grab a couple items because these are some freaking cool figures. They also updated their My Action Figure Customs information, and they kind of shared some stuff. So they're the same guys behind Savage Crucible. And what they're doing is, previously it was all like 3D printed stuff through their My Action Figures, My Action Figure Customs, but now they're actually printing off like kind of runs of the production quality injection molded weapons, accessories, heads, things like that. And depending on the success of this first launch that they're going to have on June 14th also, that's on myactionfigures.com, not Savage Crucible, but they'll have their online sales at the same day. Depending on how that goes is going to kind of determine how the myactionfigurecustoms.com presence and direction goes moving forward, which I'm really excited for because I think it'll be a cool opportunity to customize a lot of these really cool figures with minimal, effort for those that aren't paint guys and things like that. And one other thing that I caught, and some folks may have seen it, and others may not have, is on one of the Savage Crucible forums, somebody was kind of asking the Savage Crucible folks if they intend to at any time kind of release any, town folks, blacksmiths, merchants, civilian type characters, rather than just kind of warriors and such. And Rob Post, one of the creators of Savage Crucible, had mentioned in response they have something in mind once they have slimmer bucks, which I thought was really cool because it lets you kind of mind wander for those people that are kind of world building in that Savage Crucible fantasy realm.
Yep.
And I know that people always ask for it, so it'd be interesting to see how they do it. I think it would be a great My Action Figures custom thing if it made sense, as opposed to being maybe their mainline stuff. But it'll be interesting to see how they go with that. Next one, and jump in here at any time, Ed, if you have any to add. I know this one's going to be more your space here. The Monster Force news, nothing really big on the news. These were done yesterday. I know some additional things came out, Ed. I think these were just some in-package images.
They have in-package images out on their Instagram now, and they also have a Forgotten King white translucent and a Dracula red translucent figures that will be available for $40 at JoeFest as a con exclusives. So those will be the first in-box figures that people can get their actual grubby little mitts on. So
those will be for sale and take home that same day, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. That'll be cool to see. I know folks are, really getting ready for the Monster Force stuff. So
yeah. They'll also have an Eagle Force. They'll have an Eagle Force guy there from Fresh Monkey Fiction as well.
I did see that too. That's cool. I'm not a big translucent guy, so that one I won't be bugging you to pick me up, but there might be some other stuff there that I'm definitely going to be interested in. The next piece is Ramen Toys, and this is around JoeFest too. So they announced that they're going to have the Stealth Going in stock there, limited to under 100 units on site at the JoeFest. But they'll also have some online sales between the 21st and 23rd, but only while stocks last. And I believe what I saw online was there's only about 200 pieces total. So it's definitely a limited quantity. So if you want to get it and you're going to JoeFest, make sure you get it fast. And if you're not going to JoeFest, make sure you're refreshing that page frequently enough to get your hands on it. And then one of the last news items for tonight and this week is Brutal Realm. I was hesitant around this line at first. Ed, you and I talked about this. They haven't gone to the Kickstarter yet. But in the beginning, I was hesitant because I felt like the bodies and bucks looked a little thick and a little outside my range of what I'm looking to collect. But as I've seen them, a little bit more frequently, seen some additional imagery and stuff, I'm really getting on board with this one, and I really think this is like an all-in for me. I really like the way these guys look.
Yeah,
I
they're
like
looking
what they
dope.
did with the head sculpt, with the hair. Each one of them's got a unique, kind of look and feel to them as far as the face and, kind of the role they're going to play. But I definitely think this is going to be, something that I'm going to go heavy in on. I saw the little axe here that he's holding, and you've got another one with a sword. I'm kind of pleased with these. I was hesitant at first, but they're turning me into to believers.
They look better in action poses than they did in their 3D renders where they were just standing there. So definitely,
Very much so. Yep, absolutely. They're definitely bigger. They look thicker. They look a little bit more, weighted. But
that's how you want your barbarians to be, though. So.
Yep. And actually, there was one more news item, and that's the Valaverse here. Valaverse launched their Wave 5 or Series 5 with the pre-orders. So they launched the pre-orders for June 7th, which was last week. So you can see the 5 characters here. This includes the new Buck and the new futuristic sci-fi looking, military,
Victorian.
Victorian there. So you've got those, you've got the Colonel and whatnot, and the samurai looking, individual, and then I can't remember the other one, but those are available on. What's that?
I was gonna say you got Atlas, who's the bigger Buck. That's the new guy, and with the hat on in the winter, the beanie hat.
Yep. And I'm interested in seeing that because I do want to get the other Buck. I haven't done
the other guy
is
I can't think of his name, Rundown or something like that, but he is actually a new ethnicity in the line, so that's pretty cool too.
Oh yeah. Yep. They're getting some adjustments out there. Very interested in it. There's a few that are definitely. I'd probably get all 5 of them just so I can get each one of them. As I do like the different characters. The one I may pass on is a samurai because I'm not a huge ninja guy, and this kind of goes down that route where I'm not. And
they also have a troop builder in this one as well. That's not shown in this picture.
Oh, okay. I didn't even realize that, but these are available also as of today on our buddies over there on Hella Dope Toys. So if you're not one of those folks that, feels the need to have it first and you're just a collector and you want to support someone else in the community, Hella Dope Toys is a great place to go to. They get those, or as soon as they get their stock in, it ships within 1 business day. So definitely that's where I'll be placing my order later this week.
All right.
So, cool. So with that said, that's the news. So again, we've got Yojo June. We want to celebrate this. The idea behind this topic is, we're in June. We've got JoeFest. We've got, the constant streams from Hasbro, talking and hyping up the Joe line. And let's be honest, I think, what got me into the toy community and my own was the idea of getting, more Joes to tie in with the Action Force and, build out my armies of figures. So, one of the longest standing, toy lines there is the G.I. Joe figure. So I wanted to go in depth on that. And again, I'm going to hit over here one more time. We're going to go to the video.
June is the time to celebrate. G.I. Joe heroes, they truly great. From 1/6 to 112 and 118 scale, the legends live and excel. Your Joe, the ultimate celebration. G.I. Joe fans across the nation with special guests. We're gonna dive into the world where Joe's come alive. He's come alive. G.I. Joe is there. Marvel's there to come with toys. Duckworth Studios bringing the joys. Joe has ahead, the future's bright. G.I. Joe's legacy shining light. Your Joe June, the ultimate celebration. G.I. Joe fans across the nation with special guests. We're gonna dive into the world where Joe's come alive. Join the fun heroes unite. ToyLeet Takeover, shine bright like subscribe and join the chat. Your Joe June, when the Joes are out.
And with that said, we got our first panelist. So tonight's main topic is going to be a little bit different than we normally do. I'm your host, Mr. Wundrful, And I've got my first guest here. He's one of our first panelists. You may know him as Ed Akxion Figs, also the co-host of ToyLeet. He's a lifelong fan of the G.I. Joes. He's collector. He collects a lot of plastic beyond the Joes, but whenever Ed and I sit there and talk, it always ends up coming back to the Joes, whether it be 3 3/4, 1/6, 1/12. Ed is a big fan of G.I. Joes. Ed, welcome to the show.
Again, well, thank you. Thanks for having me for the first time here.
Yeah, thank you for being a guest. Appreciate it. So we're going to approach this a little differently. We got a bunch of questions we're going to ask you guys. I'm going to go ahead and bring in one of our next guests. So let me go ahead and bring him in.
Here comes the money. Here we go. Money talk. Here comes the money. Money.
We've got Punk with Toys. Hey, Lawrence. Hey, buddy. Thanks for joining. Punk with Toys over here. He runs a bunch of YouTube shows. He also owns YouTube unofficially. That's the little reference for the Money, Money, Money song there. He also, he runs a Punk with Toys 3-hour show on Monday nights. It runs it by himself, which in itself is a commendable feat because I know I surely couldn't do it. There was one week Ed was like, hey, I can't be available. Do you think you could run it by yourself? And I was like, nope, not going to happen. So, and we only run like an hour, hour and a half. So Punk does that on Mondays. And if he's not on somebody else's streams, he's on a Thursday night stream talking with a friend, which is a great show, one that, I've had the pleasure of being on. And then he also runs another one, which doesn't always pick the best movie historically, but they have Punk on Films where they review movies. Sometimes they pick secondary movies and should pick No Holds Barred as the top wrestling, movie. But Punk with Toys, thanks for joining us, buddy. You want to give a little brief intro to those that may not be familiar with you?
Yeah. So, like you pretty much said it. Monday night toy ramblings every Monday night, and Thursday I do lots of toy reviews, a lot of G.I. Joe stuff. Also, the guy next to me right here, he's my moderator. His name is Akxion Figs. All right.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Right.
Thank you.
If you're gonna have someone on, you should at least say their name properly. It's Akxion Figs. All right. It's not that hard.
Listen, we got folks that join the stream.
No.
I trust a screamer.
Wait. Listen is my saying. You do not have the right. And when you do it, you need to hit a
trademark. Trademark.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Lawrence. I appreciate it, brother. Next, we got another guest here. We got Jeff from Skunkworks Studios. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. Oh, he's got one of those characters. I know who that guy is. He's the Intruders.
That guy is double fisting. Well, I would just say we've seen that before. Yeah, that's not what I saw.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jeff, thanks for joining us. Jeff is he has the Skunkworks Studios. He's primarily, from my understanding, Jeff, you're a G.I. Joe Adventure Team fan. You do a lot of photo movies where you add some effects and it's not stop motion, right? It's photos that you snap and you merge them together to kind of tell a story. And then you also run a show where you do your custom project that you're working on. And I guess you're a collector of all, kind of all toys, not just stuff, but, just Joe's, but you're big Joe fan. And then you also run a show occasionally, I guess, Toys, Brews, and Booze, I guess, where you kind of get drunk and play with plastic. I don't know if that's the case. But,
No, I do Brew 30, usually almost every Thursday, where I review a beer or whiskey. It's probably my favorite video to do, my least popular video. And as far as everything else, you're real accurate. I love toys. I collect a ton of different stuff. Not as much as I would like to, but my main love is G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe in particular, and then I really love Adventure Team themed stuff. So, yeah, that's who I am in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you joining us. And last but definitely not least, one of my friends, and probably a lot of people in the chat's friends here, Jim Largo over from Largo's Lair and many other streams. He's one of the most innovative when it comes to YouTube from what I've seen. He does streams including the Infinite Playlist, which I have been a part of. And in my opinion, probably the best Infinite Playlist there is in the history of pro wrestling Infinite playlists. And he also runs streams regarding one that I find very interesting, which is the Action Force lore, because I love my lore. So when you're reviewing the graphic novels or the book and discussing that with is it Wilhelm, correct? Wilhelm over there, you have those streams. And then I know even more recently in the last 3 to 6 months, you've started to expand into doing like short story poem kind of readings and such too. So you've got a kind of a wealth of media that you put out there for folks. So Largo, what did I miss? And please introduce yourself to those that may not know you.
Well, I'm a longtime listener, first time caller. Thanks for letting me be here.
He likes long walks on the beach.
I do.
Margaritas at sunset.
I do like margaritas. We have been, kind of going into storytelling and lore, exploring some different avenues beyond the plastic. But, we got to pay the bills. So pretty soon we're going to be doing Joe OnlyFans. You can see all 21 points of articulation. Coming for you, baby.
Take my money.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jim. And I apologize if you guys are getting any background noise. My wife has decided to start sending things to the printer. So there is printer paper going off behind me. I thought somebody was coming out of the window. So if you're hearing that, I apologize.
Hey, Travis.
I did send her a text and tell her to stop.
Let's run through the chat real quick and just say hi to everybody here. So since we got all of our
I'll let you run that, brother.
They can all say hi. So first up, this guy down here on the right, pulling double duty, Mr. Largo.
Handsome fella.
Yeah. Joe G's in the house. What's up, Joe? And we're officially a toy tube because Nolan has showed up. What's happening, Nolan? We got David R. What's up, David? Derek Hoover popped in. He says he's going to be back. He got lots of fires in the poker, or pokers in the fire, I guess. Depends on which way you want to look at that. Then we got another guy pulling double duty over here. He came to see me on screen.
Indeed.
Oh, you know what that means? If he's in the chat. Where is it? Oh, there it is.
Here we go. Money.
Every time you enter the chat, Punk.
That song is so much longer than I realized it was.
You give a kid a new. All right. Elsa Joy, Retro Toy Princess. What's happening? Roll Keeper. What's happening, Roll Keeper? We got Toy Domination. What's happening, Toy Domination? And we got a third panelist playing double duty with the chat. What's up, Jeff? Dre of the Collector Safe Space. What's happening, Dre? And we got Tony's Figs in the house. Tony will also be at JoeFest, keeping Lawrence's temper under control as much as possible with
That's a full-time job.
Yeah. The Briscoe. What's happening, Briscoe? We got a few more. And we got, that's Tony's Figs again. Hello, Tony. Thank you. Radnam Diorama. What's happening, Radnam? We got 3-star draw or down south 77. Depends on what name you want to call them by. Yes, Fresh Monkey Fiction will be at JoeFest with some goods. Plastic Skulls. What's happening, my man? And Bill from Weird Fantastic Toy Venture is here. He's saying, where the fuck is Jim Largo? He's in a striped shirt. You got to find him.
That's right.
Awesome.
And Ted Darklaw, one of the co-owners of Hella Dope Toys and my boss. What's happening, Ted? And nope, we got one more new person showing up. Machine Man is in the house. What's happening, Machine Man? Oh, and we can't forget about this guy. Our favorite redheaded stepchild, Fat Red Foo.
Awesome.
No one wants a fire in their poker. No, they don't want a fire in their poker. That is sure. Because if you got a fire in your poker, something went wrong, you hooked up with the wrong person from Fansley.
Awesome. I don't even know what that is.
All right, man. Show's all yours.
I don't think our viewers care. Yes. Awesome. So we're going to go around the room here. I got a couple questions ready, and then we can deviate from this if we need to, but we felt like these questions would be a good place to start. So, again, this is about the G.I. Joes. So the first question, you guys should see it on the screen here, is like, we're going to start with you, Ed. What skill do you prefer and focus on, and what makes it special and unique to you? There's so many scales within the Joe space. I think it's a good opportunity to determine what your preference is.
So for the longest time, I was absolutely 100% 1/6 scale. I collected mostly G.I. Joe Adventure Team and custom figures that fell into that space. Within the last couple of years, I switched over to 1/12 only because they were just easier to get and, easier to world build with and take pictures outside and stuff with. It's a lot easier to take a 1/12 scale bag of figures as opposed to a handful of figures. Jeff knows the pain of trying to take a Jeep and action figures and a helicopter and everything else outside when it's 1/6 scale without stealing your kid's wagon. So, yeah, 1/6 still. I do play around with that, but mostly 1/12 scale nowadays.
It's interesting to hear that though, right, Ed? Because you said that it's easier to grab the 1/12 scale because I was never a 1/6 scale person in anything really, just because it was before my time and I never really picked it up. So when I hear you say it's easier to grab 1/12 scale than it is grab a bag of that than it is the 1/6. It's interesting because you normally hear from that 3 3/4 versus the 1/12 you can world
Yep.
build. So it's funny to see that or hear that out loud. That that smaller scale is 1/12 for someone like yourself. So awesome, thank you. And Lawrence.
Right now it's 1/12. Just because in my height 1/6 is like 1/12. So it's pretty much the same. I steal the kitty wagon and I can pull it all out. No, most of you know, I have a very large O-ring collection and 4-inch collection, which I still do collect, and I still like a lot of the stuff. But for me, I mean, you asked what's unique about it, just the detail. It's so much more prevalent. I mean, you can get detail in 4-inch figures, we know, but they cost more. They cost just as much as regular, not as 6-inch figures. But as I've gotten more into wanting to do photography and accidentally taking a few good shots, they just show up better. And as we all get older, I don't care what anyone says, our eyes need something bigger to look at. Largo, I see wearing glasses. I wear glasses, so we all.
Yeah.
But right now, again, like world building, you guys were doing it with 1/6 scale, so I don't want to hear the crap about that. You can't do it with 1/12. It's not true. You're not going to get a flag, but that's okay. I have one, so.
Awesome.
But I still love my O-rings, and I still love that size.
Fair enough. I appreciate it, and thank you for stealing all my thunder on any short jokes by making that reference before I had a chance to throw you under the bus.
Short jokes have become very easy to do. People need to evolve onto something a little bit more. I mean, you can only hear them so much before you go. I've heard that since I was like in 3rd grade. So
If you're going to go at Lawrence with short jokes, you got to be original like I do.
yeah,
I got nothing.
Ironically, even though Lawrence did not collect the 12-inch, rumor has it he does have Kung Fu grip. So there's that.
See, I'm not that guy. I can't come up with that. I need time to prep my material, Largo. Man, awesome. Hey, Jeff. So in regards to the same question, what scale do you prefer? I think we know some of that, but what makes it special to you?
So, honestly, I started out back in 1979. My older brother, he's 8 years older than me, had a ton of Adventure Team stuff. So that was my first introduction to G.I. Joe. He would never let me play with it, so I naturally became obsessed with it. There's nothing that says G.I. Joe more to me than a flocked head and a Kung Fu grip, which is what I remember as a kid. But then, when he got rid of all his G.I. Joes, 1982 rolled around and the O-ring figures came out, and my very first figure was Snake Eyes and then Stalker, and then I collected it for several years after it. And then one of my good friends at work, I ended up just selling him all my O-ring stuff because I got a job and I just like, man, I'm going all in on Adventure Team. To me, like, to speak to it, like the 1/6 scale, like to me, it is so unique in the ability to customize it. I told the story, and I apologize if I'll tell it to you guys again. I got my son a classified Recondo this past Christmas, and he knows what G.I. Joe is, but he has all the G.I. Joes that I have, the Adventure Team stuff, and he pulled it out of the box and he looked at it. This is a 5-year-old. He looks at it, and he puts it down, and he goes, "How am I supposed to change your clothes, Dad?" That's just, to me, that's G.I. Joe. I got an infinite amount of clothing. You can have one figure. I love 1/6. It's a pain in the butt. Ed's right. But man, it's just so fun to take a a 12-inch GI Joe out to the creek and just get him dirty and just destroy him.
I'm sorry, you said that word wrong, Jeff. It's a crick.
Crick. But it's just great. I've loved him forever. I'm almost 50, and it's just my GI Joe's adventure team is just my favorite thing.
I'm sorry, I just heard 12-inch toy and get it dirty, and I went to another.
Yeah,
it's not dishwasher safe either. So
that's
I kind of look. It's weird. I kind of look at everything anymore now, and you guys out there that are parents, like with a kid, like I'm back to looking at toys now as a kid, like with a kid, and what kids like, and it's interesting to see my child what he gravitates towards, and it's really interesting. Like Shogun Warriors and 1/6 scale GI Joe.
Yeah,
like
I can tell you for a fact that your son is not the norm.
No, 100% not.
Not the norm.
No, for sure not.
Your son is awesome.
He's something.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Jim, what is your preference and what makes it special or unique to you?
Well, like Jeff, I'm a kid of the 70s. So my first Joe was Fuzzy Head Kung Fu Grip. So 12-inch Joe is my Joe of choice. But for cool vehicles and world building, the original 3.75 or even the 4-inch guys, they're just great. Great line of vehicles, cool storyline, love the comics. For the 1/12 scale, which is what most of my collection has been as I've started collecting again. This is like my second or third iteration of collecting, going in and out. I like the 1/12 scale classified for specific key figures. If it's a character I really love, then it's great for picking up just to have that guy on the shelf in a really cool representation. So I like all three scales for different things.
Awesome. Good deal. Cool. I think that's cool because we've heard a perspective from each of you, based on, a different size, with everyone kind of having focal points. It's cool. There's a lot of overlapping enjoyment there between the different scales. Ed, I see you're popping up some chats here.
Yeah, we just had Northern Nomads pop in. What's up, suckers? And then Todd C joined too. What's happening, Todd?
I think Oz joined too.
Oz did, and Pat from Elite
Hey,
Action Studios is here with us.
Pat.
He does some cool 1/6 scale GI Joe Adventure Team videos as well. He's in Jeff's group, the Axis of Awesome. I can't call it Jeff's group, but the group that Jeff belongs to, that is called the Axis of Awesome, which is a bunch of 1/6 scale customizers and collectors and movie guys and stuff like that. So, and yes,
good deal.
Oz also joined. What's happening, Oz, my man?
Hey, brother. Good deal. Cool. And then I'll move on to the next question. We've got how has the Joe, and this is going to start with you, Punk. How has the Joe line impacted your life and collecting journey, right? And the reason I say this is obviously we all collect different things. Some collect comics and toys. Some collect just toys and many different types of toys, but specifically around the Joe line. How do you feel the Joe line has impacted your life and the collecting journey you've been on?
Wow. I mean, I've told it before, like I can remember the first time I saw the G.I. Joe commercial, where I was at, what I was doing, what I was playing with, turning around and asking my dad if I could get like one of those figures. And I can honestly say, I mean, we went into Sears and I asked if I could get a figure the first time we saw it. Told me to get 2 vehicles. I picked the vehicle, and I forget what else I had picked, but it didn't have. It was one of the weapons that didn't have a figure. My dad said, well, why don't you get that and get that one, because then you'll have 2 figures and 2 vehicles.
I love it.
And it was like the roof.
My dad's a genius.
Yeah, lights came in. You could hear the angels singing, and yeah, it was like, oh my God, Dad, you're a genius. And then from that point on, it was G.I. Joe. I mean, I collected a lot of other stuff and played with a lot of other stuff. I had Transformers, GoBots, and He-Man, and all that type of stuff, but it's always been G.I. Joe. It's the only thing that survived my childhood. I don't know what happened with everything else. As most people know, I have the USS flag, but it's mine from when I was a child. The Terradrome is mine from when I was a child. My Tomahawk, Night Raven, so many of these things are from mine from when I was a child. Why? I don't know. Maybe it was, Vietnam was still very prevalent with almost all of our parents, uncles, even some of our grandparents. So military was still pretty big then, and people didn't hate the military like so many people do these days. So, you hear them talk about Top Gun and how many people joined the Air Force and the Navy after that because they wanted to be pilots. Most of them didn't end up being pilots, though. But I don't know. Like, it was just the cool little guns, camouflaged figures. Then you get ninjas, and I know ninjas aren't real, Matthew, but just all these cool little toys that you would get. And then the vehicles. Again, you could get vehicles for $10-15, whether it be the Vamp, the Stinger, and then I got the bigger ones too, obviously, but the Mauler, the Mobat. I mean, what's better than taking a tank and just pushing the top turret and watching the treads go? Don't get me wrong, it was dog slow. But then you get the Mauler and you're like, oh, it has 2 speeds. And even the first speed was so much faster than the other one. But that was it. Like, that was, I mean, I'll never say that I was a collector as a kid, but I really do think that's what brought me into it. Because I had to keep everything. I had to keep my Joes in the best shape possible.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And do you think that do you think that with the Joes and that being your collections impacted the other things that you collect, or is everything else just kind of second to that?
I think everything's always going to be second to GI Joe, other than skateboarding. But as I get older,
I knew that was coming.
To skateboard.
And Roman.
Well, yeah, he's a living creature along with my kids. GI Joe. I mean, other than skateboarding, is the most important thing that isn't living in my life. Awesome. And I can't see myself ever not collecting it. If you said, "Hey, you know what? You got to get rid of all your toys but one line," it would be GI Joe. That would be the one thing that I would keep, and I don't even have to think about it. I don't even have to think about it. But it did impact collecting other things, because it's all about the fun of getting something new and feeling like a child again. And I also love the hunt. I mean, I've come to hate the hunt, because it's one thing to walk into Target or wherever and not find anything. It's another thing to go into 3 or 4 of these knowing that there's nothing new, but you're just going on this, hopefully something just pops up.
Absolutely. And the thing you said in the beginning when you were first talking about like impacting that story of your dad, right? That's really cool. And I think that to me, that would be something that majorly influenced how you went, because you had your dad. I don't want to say he was living vicariously through you, right? But he was like, yeah, he knew that you needed to get 2 vehicles, 2 guys. And that makes me think about that time with my dad, the pro wrestling. He makes me miss something. And it's like one of those earliest childhood memories that I have to this day. And I can remember where I was, how pissed I was, how happy I was, that whole thing. So I totally can relate to a degree on that. And that's really cool. So thank you. Jeff, same question.
So that's a great question. So, growing up in the late 70s, early 80s, when you got Real American Hero, you finally had like an enemy. So you had Cobra, and then the lines at the time, like the Remco Sergeant Rocks, you had like an enemy. You always had like an enemy, and it was really cool. But I remember like in 84, my mom got me a G.I. Joe Sea Adventure at a garage sale. So it was my first 12-inch G.I. Joe that I had myself. And fostering of imagination was what G.I. Joe meant to me. When I got that figure, my mom sewed clothes for him because we didn't have a lot of clothes for him. And that figure went everywhere with me. He went to the swimming pool. He went to the woods. He went on car trips. He went on grocery shopping trips. That figure was with me. He even went to Catholic school, snuck in a book bag, and he would spend, all day in the sister Xavier's office because I wasn't supposed to bring toys to school. That that sea adventure fostered my imagination because he didn't have any enemies. He was out and he was doing whatever I was wanting to do in the backyard. Like all the other lines I collected, like Masters of the Universe, like I said, Real American Hero, they all you had the story for yourself. I didn't have to use my imagination really that much to come up with it. When I had that sea adventure, I created a whole world around him and who he was. He was a former Navy SEAL, basically, who got out of the military and became an explorer. That was his backstory for the longest time. And I remember the day I buried him as a mummy in my mom and dad's backyard because I got some other figures and I decided one day to bury him, and he's still there. And I'm getting ready to do a video where I'm going to find him and dig him up and restore him. And that video will mean more to me than any video I will ever have made or ever make on YouTube if I find that figure, because that figure.
Do you have a rough idea of the lawn where it is, Jeff?
I do.
Okay.
I know exactly you think where he is. I've got it all planned out. I'm gonna hopefully do a video, but the fostering of imagination is what G.I. Joe meant to me. Like I was able to create a whole world myself in my mind that I still carry all that in me now when I go out to do photo stories. And if any of you guys have ever watched any of my photo stories, probably can attest to that and see that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
go for it, Lawrence.
So you said like a Real American Hero and like Master of the Universe, even though they had their stories, they already kind of had a preset story.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that for you? Because I felt like that was Star Wars. Like when we played Star Wars, you had to play the movie. Like you couldn't veer off. I never felt like that with G.I. Joe.
No. You had the village. You were always going to be fighting Cobra. You know what I'm saying? Or you're always going to be fighting Skeletor and his minions. That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
You always. I mean, you could obviously take your G.I. Joes out and have special missions or whatever. Not to quote the comic book, but the world was already kind of established.
I see what you're saying.
You say like with the Adventure Team and those figures, you never had an established lore with them. It was just. You got the accessory set, but there was no backstory. You had to create your own.
Did any of them ever marry Barbie?
No, but mine banged my sisters a few times.
That's okay. That was I was trying to ask in a nice way.
Did I say that on here? I was going to say
the Barbie dream house was real that night. It was a dream.
If this dream house with a rocket, don't you
everybody knows Joe comes more than once.
Hey, Punk. My Real American Hero guys banged Barbie a few times too, and you and I are both short, so that's a win for us, bro.
and one thing, right, Jeff, you didn't tell everybody you intend to do this long video, this video to find that figure. What you haven't told people is your parents sold the house a couple years ago, and it's been bulldozed, and now there's a school on it. So you're going to have to rip that school ground up and get underneath it, right? So that's why it's going to be the most important one. You're likely to
going in under the cover at night.
Thankfully, no, because that would be an FBI video of me getting arrested, prosecuted.
As he's yelling, "Yo, Joe!" Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. And in Largo, same question to you.
Well, again, Jeff and I are kind of kindred spirits. For me, it was the Land Adventurer was my first. I love that camo uniform and the fuzzy beard, and he was my buddy. He went everywhere. My dad was career military, and so he was a big fan of Joe. So he gave me several of these as I was a kid, and what accessories we had, like the ATV, the bright yellow 6-wheeled, Zoomer doozy. That was like the cool vehicle. Later we got a helicopter and some other neat bits. But it was cool that you could create your own adventures. Joe was Joe, and Joe could do anything. And Joe could fight, Sasquatch or, whatever muck monster is in the sewer or
that
whatever.
Giant alligator or that giant pygmy gorilla. I tell you, those
things are
horrible enemies.
Did he ever get a fight with a rooster?
Even a rooster, an angry one. And I also like the fact that because Joe was, bigger figure, when you brought him outside in the backyard, he just looked like he fit. He fits in the the mud and the dirt and the trees and stuff better than some of the smaller scale figures. And your chances of losing accessories were a little less because your figure accessories were a little bigger. Not that you didn't lose them, but but yeah, fostering of imagination, the fact that he could, with a few uniform changes, he could be any kind of, adventurer you want him to be, which was very cool. He was very adaptable. And I got away from that. And then as an older vintage person, I started thinking about some of my member berries and wanted to recreate an adventure team. And that led me to a whole different side of toy collecting community that I hadn't been a part of. I got to meet Jeff and some of the other great guys in the Axis of Awesome, and super helpful, really encouraging, saying, hey, yeah, you missed out on some of these things that were reproduced, but here's where you can still find stuff. They told me about Cotswold. I got to see Cotswold Collectibles. They do some awesome stuff. Really help guys who still want to get into 12-inch collecting and making your own kind of cool custom stuff if you want. So I guess that kind of led me into the idea of storytelling, lore building as a kid, because you do create your own adventures, and that's kind of followed over into what I do now. So
Just how
Makes sense.
Just how big were the 12-inch vehicles?
Oh, dude, you want to
they were
see?
beefy. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Like I'm trying to.
Jeff has a
Hold on a
couple
second here.
Jeff has a
Just hold
couple.
on 1 second. If you see my
Awesome.
super short shorts I'm wearing, none of you guys don't get turned on.
Too late.
Hey,
I'm taking you
hey,
to
I
the
already,
dream house.
That's right.
I already
We all know-
approved Largo to
That's
not
right.
have to worry about pants.
Pants are the true enemy of democracy. So, wear your short shorts. Be proud.
So Larry, that's the
The
G.I. Joe
Trapper.
Adventure Team Trapper Keeper, which
Yep.
was the vehicle I was telling you about the other night, Travis, that was designed to capture
Yep.
the Neanderthal aliens called the Intruders.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
That's
So,
not
yeah,
over.
they're beefy. They're not, they're kind of shelf queens. I've got
Yeah.
1/6 scale Jeep that takes up an entire shelf.
So
but
that's probably
it's
the
cool.
last vehicle that they made,
Yeah.
probably in 77 or 75, 76, the Big Trapper.
They were also not scaled to 1/6 scale for real.
Oh,
right?
no.
Because I mean,
No,
then it
yeah.
would have been a hell of a lot bigger. They were scaled to
And
fit the
those-
figures.
And those right there, they were like the enemy of the IKEA detoss, right? Because they aren't going on.
No.
those,
No.
right?
Yeah.
The ATV by itself would take up an entire
Yeah. I
detail.
mean, trust me, I have a lack of space, but I make it work. But
Awesome.
yeah.
Ed. So, we've talked a lot, but for those that are listening, here, what is the Joe line impacted how has the Joe line impacted life and collecting journey?
A little history. Probably the first action figure I remember having is the Fisher Price Adventure People Mountain Climber set, right? Which came with a dude. It was a guy and a girl. They had a backpacks and sleeping bags and a rappelling rope. And the guy had like this red beard. And I took that figure, kind of like Jeff's Adventure Team guy. I took that figure everywhere.
Yeah.
And I just thought he was the coolest thing. I had him rappelling off everything he could rappel off of, hanging off that rope, zip line and all that stuff. And then my uncles were both several years older than me and were heavily into G.I. Joe and then G.I. Joe Adventure Team stuff. And one of my uncles got me, or maybe it was my grandmother, I can't remember who, but one of them got me a carded G.I. Joe Land Commander with the suit, muscle body. And it was probably like the last year you ever found him in stores. And I got that figure, and it was that the rest was history. I mean, I took that figure outside every day. I had one of those big old Tonka Jeeps that was bigger than 1/6 scale, but fit the figures good. And he would ride in there, and shotgun would be like Tonto from Mego. It was like it didn't matter who was shotgun; it was just somebody else as a sidekick. I threw all of his gear in the back of that Jeep, and we went everywhere. I beat the snot out of that figure. I mean, he just fell apart and left him where he lies. But like that started just like Jeff and Largo. It was kind of like a whole thing. Like even today, doesn't matter if it's G.I. Joe or Star Wars or AWOC, whoever cut whatever figure I get. It has nothing to do with the lore that's established. My whole story in my head is my story in my head, and I can mix them all together and do whatever.
Yeah.
And that's where I come from. I mean, I got Zap is my first Real American Hero figure, and I can remember getting that figure for Christmas the first year it came out. And like Punk said, I remember seeing my first G.I. Joe commercial, and it was just like, oh my God. And in between the Air Adventure or the Land Adventure I got the Super Joe stuff where I had Gorn where they had light up chest, and my cousin who's the same age as me had the Super Joe Commander with the light up chest, and we battled those things until, those were our Joes until Real American Hero came out. And then, I mean, ideally, I always wanted to be a soldier and went into the Army because of my love for G.I. Joe. And to this day, it's just there. And, I've collected, and I don't think there's ever been a time in my life that I didn't have a G.I. Joe figure in my possession.
Yeah.
No,
Awesome.
Getting G.I. Joe, getting Zap as your first figure. Do you also remember snapping his thumb that day?
No, I didn't snap his thumb.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a funny story. My aunt was like, she lived up in the city, and every year we went there for New Year's Eve as a kid. That was when my dad's family did their Christmas. It was New Year's Eve day. They do their Christmas there. And she had those old funky, like beaded curtains, right? They were like the crystal clear ones, all different colors and stuff. And I remember I had maybe it was a Sergeant Rock or maybe one of my Fisher Price Adventure people or something. And then I had Zap, right? And Zap was going in and out of that curtain like he was, transporting through like some energy field or something. I can remember that vividly. And I was like, my daughter got some of those curtains, and when she stopped using them for a room, I was like, I got to have those. And I still intend to use them for like a photo story, but I haven't done it yet.
That reminds me, Punk, when you talk about breaking those thumbs. Okay, so my favorite G.I. Joe vehicle of all time, across all the spectrum, is the original Vamp. The original Vamp with clutch was awesome. I got that, and I loved that clutch figure because he looked like a Land Adventure. He had the beard, he's awesome. And I had that goddamn vehicle for a week. And this was the very first, run of Real American Hero, right? So there was no scuba divers, right? There's no scuba divers in that original line until you got Torpedo, right? So I took Clutch to the YMCA with me. My sister and I went there to swim, and I took Clutch to just play with him in the pool. And I'll be goddamned if the intake didn't swallow Clutch. Never saw him again. Never saw him again. I didn't get a new Clutch until we got the second Vamp, the Desert Tan Vamp with the rocket launcher in the back. But it wasn't the same. So I would, didn't break any thumbs, but I lost that figure, and that to this day it still haunts me.
And your first thought was my 12-inch Land Adventure would have never got sucked into.
No, he would never get sucked in there. No, but my Clutch did. My Clutch figure, I was so pissed off because I love that Clutch figure.
I think that's
we used to have these woods, which are now gone. Go figure. Where I would go there, and I lost my breaker there. And I know about where he fell, and I probably looked for days going back there looking for him.
Yeah.
And never found him. And it's like I know right about where I was at when I was playing with him because I was by myself. But I did drop my ripcord. I dropped my ripcord in grass. And I walked all the way home. I lived in condos. I'm like, I'm never going to find them. I retraced my steps, and I found them.
You did? Oh.
Yeah.
So I had the original Snake Eyes figure, and when he was still a commando. And I had the red Fisher Price Adventure People kayak. And I remember under our driveways, we always had the sluice pipes, right? And it was, we had a nice big ditch. And that was like my river that I played with my toys in because the creek was there, but I had to walk, and my parents always made my brother come along, and he had no imagination. So I always just played in the creek because I could do what I wanted. But I remember I stuck Snake Eyes in that kayak, and I sent it through the sluice pipe. The kayak came back out, but Snake Eyes didn't. So many years later, I was out of the service. So, I mean, I was, 25 or whatever, 26. And my dad cleaned out the ditch, and he found the head. That was the only part he found of the Snake Eyes, but the head survived. But yeah, it was pretty funny. I remember he's like, you know what this is? I'm like, holy shit. I lost that when I was probably 10. He's like, well, here, have it. I was like, okay, cool.
That's strange that you just found the head. The
rest of it probably washed down, once it started breaking apart. I think the head was probably stuck in mud or something, right? It was like,
Yeah, you got to think probably the screw
yeah,
rusted-
screw rotted out and glue finally
rusted
fell
out and
apart.
just
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Awesome. So those are some interesting stories. It sounds like you guys have some memorable moments for sure. I think I appreciate you guys sharing some of those. I think what I
Can I
heard
say
was
something?
give me one
Anytime-
second.
Oh,
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. I just wanted to say thank you to Cobb and Rolando and Wraith Mace for joining in. So and go for it, Punk. I just wanted to call those guys out.
no. Anytime I've been on a stream like this where someone brings up this stuff, you start remembering things that you completely forgot about.
Oh yeah.
And again, I don't think of many bad. Even losing that breaker, it's like a memorable part of my life. It's like, oh, I totally forgot about that. And when you think back, just it was heartbreaking then, but going back there and looking for it, you got to laugh at it because I have another breaker now, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, you start to, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. You start to remember weird stories like that you completely forgot about. So
Yeah, that's
Back
that's-
10, 11 years ago when Jeff and I first met on Facebook, shit, we'd spend hours in the DMing each other, just stupid shit like this, and be like all night long, just, oh yeah, I remember when I did this. Oh yeah, I remember this.
I think that's one of the great things about not just the little sub pocket Joe communities we all form, but toys in general, especially with all of our generation. It's like we all have this common bond because we grew up in an age before the internet, before all the bullshit that we have to deal with now and kids have to deal with now. And you had your toys. Most kids, your toys are what you had, and your friends in the block. Like right now, there's no kids on my block for my son to play with. I had like a ton of kids to play with. We get in fist fights over, G.I. Joe, like battling and stuff. Like, you can't do that. Yeah. Your Night Raven or your Conquest X30 can't make that maneuver, and you're like,
it was so funny how adamant we were as kids. I had
Yeah.
my brother who was a couple years older. I had a cousin that was my age and another cousin that was a couple years younger. We all had the same toys, right? G.I. Joe and everything, right?
Yep.
And it was always, oh, Cobra could never kick like that. My cousin would like flying through the air. Oh, he can't fly. He's a ground trooper. And literal fist fights over these, things. It's like,
well, when Snake Eyes decided to become a ninja, everybody had the Snake Eyes who could dodge bullets and whip everybody's ass and like defy laws of physics.
And then every neighborhood had that guy that had the flag, right?
Here comes the money.
Please don't say I had the flag. I have
The flag.
the flag.
He also
I meant that every
an
neighborhood had
enviable
someone
quantity
that
of semen to go
You're
with
one
it.
of you're one of two people I know now who had that USS flag growing up. I knew another kid who had it.
I was the kid that, because everyone had the flag, but it was always at their grandparents' house. And I would say, oh, well, we want to go play with mine because mine's actually at my house. What was funny about it was I lived in condos, and at the end of the court, there were these grandparents that actually had the flag for their grandson, but they didn't have room at their house, so they left it there. So there was actually one kid that was actually telling kids that in school that wasn't lying.
Yeah. I found out my wife's brother, he's 3 years younger than me. I didn't realize he was even a G.I. Joe guy. And he was telling me one day we were having a beer and he was like, yeah, I had that USS flag when I was a kid. And I'm like, what? And like, come to find out my wife's grandpa bought it for him. I'm like, what in the hell, dude? Where is that thing?
Well, it's like the
speaking of Lawrence, go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Trap. Oh, I was just gonna say, it's like grandparents want the kids to visit. It's like, get a flag, man. They'll definitely come.
Yeah. They'll start a Navy.
They'll do what they did for Punk at his own house.
Punk was one of those guys. I sent Lawrence a video on Instagram of that the midget guy that's the comedian. What the hell's his name? Brad something.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
he's funny as hell, right? Well, he was sitting on a podcast talking to some guy, and he's like, and the guy's like, man, you remember those guys that had the flag? And he's like, yeah, that asshole also had the Millennium Falcon. It's like we all knew that kid in the neighborhood, right?
Eternia playset.
Yeah, the one kid down the road had like the whale and the flag and the Sky Striker and all this stuff. So we were always at his house. He had the Death Star and the Millennium Falcon. And me and my brother would go play, but then we go home and be like, that spoiled asshole. We hate that kid. It was like, we didn't hate him really, but he had all the toys. And every time we went over there, he got something new.
I didn't have those things. What I had was all the G.I. Joe, and I had the arsenal of toy guns. So everyone come over my house and start picking what gun they were going to play with because I had all of them.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So with that said, you guys start talking vehicles and stuff. The next question I have for you, and I'll start with you, Jeff, is what is your favorite figure? So it could be figure or vehicle, right? So, what's your favorite?
I'll give you both. I'll give you favorite G.I. Joe figure, favorite G.I. Joe vehicle. Favorite figure is probably the G.I. Joe Sea Adventurer because he was the first 1/6 scale G.I. Joe I ever got. Love the Sea Adventurer. He just looks cool. The red hair, very unique, popped. And then the vehicle, like I just told you guys, was the Vamp, the Jeep that based off that I think Lamborghini, that Lamborghini platform from the late 70s, early 80s. Yep. Little known fact, if you guys go back and look through back when the G.I. Joe, Ed, you might remember this, back when the G.I. Joe Collector Club was still around, I want to say Daryl DePriest and a few other dudes went to talk with the old toy designers of Hasbro from the late from Adventure Team era. And they were looking at concept sketches for Adventure Team before they went defunct. And they had plans for a Jeep that looks just like the Vamp.
That was actually released down in South America.
South America, yeah. So you kind of wonder sometimes, like, if the design teams, and there's tons of dudes out there that know about the whole history of G.I. Joe, but I don't have that much time on my hands. But I got to wonder how much transition was. You had certain ideas from all the toy lines made it into other toy lines at a later date.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
One of the things is like I was telling Travis this the other night. A lot of the stuff that Hasbro designed for the original military line that got put into the Adventure Team, stuff they used for the Adventure Team and stuff they used for Real American Hero was based on real life military concepts and stuff like that, right? They got
the early stuff,
everything from the actual government to make that stuff. So
the missile system that Hawk came with was what that thing was called originally, but that missile was an anti-aircraft missile.
That thing is called a Hawk. It's Chad showed it outside his office window.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's like, it's called the Hawk. That's why Hawk was named Hawk.
Super cool.
That's cool. Cool. So the Vamp, and which did you say the Adventures? The Adventures.
G.I. Joe Sea Adventure. Yep.
Sea Adventure. Thank you. Yep. Awesome. And now Largo, in regards to your favorite figure or vehicle or both.
Well, Land Adventure for me, and as a kid, my absolute favorite vehicle was the yellow ATV, which was
sexy.
It was the best vehicle for Joe because it could go anywhere. It could float. You could hook a trailer on it. You could throw some stuff in the back. It was just almost indestructible. I definitely tested that. As far as like the real American Hero stuff, the Vamp's a classic. I really liked Conquest. Was probably one of my I thought coolest designs for aircraft for Joe.
That's a sexy plane.
Looking it up on the side here. Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, the Conquest was an awesome looking.
That was the sexy plane, yeah.
Yeah.
Based on a real prototype, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Swept wing. Yeah. What's it called? Not a swept wing. I can't remember what the name of that is.
I don't know.
The reverse wing that.
Yeah.
But it's not called that, but
there's a name.
I gave mine to my son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was beat up. I have a new one now but I gave it to him because I let him play with the aircraft carrier. He was really into Avengers at the time, so he would play with it as the helicarrier.
That's cool.
Oh, nice.
How awesome is that?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I remember I told him, I said, I don't want these to break, but if they break because you're playing with them, it's okay because that's what they're meant to do. But if I find out you're mad, you're smashing them, I'll take them away. And I remember the first time something broke, I came home, and his mom was like, he wants to tell you something, and he goes, this broken. It had fallen, and the tip of the top wing had snapped off. Not completely snapped, but just cracked. And I said, well, what were you doing? He goes, well, I was flying and I went upside down and that back piece would come off. Well, it was super loose. It came off. The thing fell down. I said, well, were you playing rough with it? He's like, no. I go, were you mad and slamming it around? He goes, no. I go, then don't worry about it. That's what they're meant to. I mean, I don't want it to break, but you're playing with it. You weren't being rude, mean with it. So, I'll now that you bring up the conquest, like I think about that all the time because it was so big to him then, like that it happened. I don't know. And now he's an asshole, but
well, he's 18-year-old kid, man. That's how they all are.
Oh man.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Jim. So bringing that question back around to you, Ed, real quick. Favorite figure or vehicle?
I would say my favorite figure would probably have to be the Land Adventure Commander muscle body. First G.I. Joe that I actually had. So love that figure. Like I said, we went on so many different adventures. And probably my favorite vehicle would have to be the Skyhawk.
Oof.
Okay.
From the Real American Hero line. I love that thing. And actually, I didn't know this, but the Skyhawk got named after the Adventure Team Skyhawk, which was actually an oversized kite that you could actually fly a 12-inch figure with.
Or allegedly
fly, yeah.
Weird.
I've never seen that ever happen.
That's the weird plane helicopter-looking unit that doesn't have any way to physically fly, correct?
It's got
a kite.
propulsion.
It's a kite.
It's a kite, basically.
Oh, the original one was a kite, but the new one, the Real American Hero one was. Lawrence just showed it off last night, I think, for the 3D one. But it had rockets that rotated and lifted it off, and then it would fly forward.
What did they call it? Like the flying coffin or something?
Yeah. We're talking about toys here, Lawrence.
That was a great
Travis.
the Skyhawk. Skyhawk was a great troop builder vehicle because in the cartoon that was like probably easy to draw and animate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to have a 1/6 scale one of those.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That'd be big.
It'd be giant. That's what I want it. I want it in yellow.
I have a 3D printed one for 6-inch.
Yeah.
And it's about 18 inches long. It's
big, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like the one that got away was the Avenger was similar to like what the Skyhawk was.
Yep.
But you could convert it. Yeah, it could be a land vehicle or a water pontoon kind of thing, or it could be an aircraft. Never got that one. Yep.
Oh, I'm looking that up too. That's kind of cool looking.
It's neat.
Cool. Awesome. And now, Punk, that brings us to you with your favorite figure or vehicle. And are you going to pick something that's not smaller than 1/12?
You know what? Wow. Oh yeah, something smaller than that for sure. I couldn't even start to say with the figures because I had so many G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, and I used to love a lot of the troop builder designs. Also, like obviously Storm Shadow, version 2 Snake Eyes, but the Crimson Guard and what we just saw, the Iron Grenadier. But so I won't even try to. Picking one figure is crazy. I think it's so hard. When it comes to vehicles, someone recently asked me this, and I was thinking about it because there's been so many good vehicles, and I had so many. But I think my favorite vehicle that I had as a kid was the Mauler, but But here it is. I had acquired a Mauler that someone had ripped the guts out of, so now you could just push it and not have to worry about it ruining the motor,
stripping the gears and shit.
Yeah. So I would and I still have it. I still have that one. I actually sold my original one because I acquired another one that's almost complete, and I mean it's mint. But I kept the other one. I don't think anyone really wanted, but now you're able to push it with the treads. You didn't have to worry. You didn't have to constantly move it, worry about it blowing through batteries because those things were battery eaters. And you could it held the 2 figures inside of it. It had pegs for 2 figures, but you could also just kind of load figures on it. But I always had 2 because I had one that did work. So you kind of had an actual, you're looking at it as a fleet of, tanks. But it looked like the A1 Abrams. That's what everyone thought it was.
Is that so? Just to confirm, is that the one that I think Ramen just is showing some stuff off for the 1/12?
It's similar.
Similar.
It's not the same, but it's a similar.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
It's meant to look like the A1 Abrams. It has the desert look to it, so it's like the tan look.
Okay.
Not the green one. That's the Mobat.
Gotcha. Awesome. Cool. So that
Real quick, let's
covers
say
just
hi
the-
to Aaron from Hello Dope Toys.
Yeah.
What's Aaron? What's happening, my brother?
Yeah.
And Lord of Thane SW's in the house. Says good
Not sure if
morning,
we saw
y'all.
this one.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was trying to hide mine.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm not sure if you saw this one from Todd C.
Yeah,
don't know
I
if
brought
you
in
missed that
Todd.
or not. Awesome. And then there was this one I thought was kind of funny. Punk, have you thought about switching to tech decks as you get older? Not because of your size, though. Like, there was no size joke there.
I answered them.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Sorry.
Well,
Awesome.
if you
cool. So then
if you write down, I said I would, but then my knuckles would probably start getting hurt.
Yeah, then the arthritis would kick in your fingers.
Yeah, those
Dude,
tech decks
seriously.
are cool.
Dude.
On a side note, the skate park that I skate at, I was skating at a lot. They just had a whole tech deck like competition. That thing is huge. Like all these people are like fingerboards are like this huge thing, and I'm like, just really go ride the skateboard. Just please, just
those things started when I was in like middle school, man. Like I remember those things. At least that's
everyone's
when I
doing,
remember seeing.
yeah,
them.
they do like real tricks on them and stuff. But to me, it's like that's
I couldn't do anything on those either.
no,
Like,
that I
was-
could not.
those either.
It's safer on the legs and ankles, that's for sure.
Oh man, you're brave.
Awesome. Cool. So the next one here, and we'll start with you, Jim. What items or events are you most looking forward to at JoeFest this year? I know that there are some folks on the panel that will be in attendance, but for those that have been following JoeFest and may have known some key items, maybe it's a vendor or a pre-release, something that's being displayed, etc. What are you looking forward this year from JoeFest?
I'd say first and foremost, seeing how quickly someone puts a cold Dr. Pepper into our buddy Bjorn's hands, because that was a big problem at last year's JoeFest. He couldn't find a Dr. Pepper. It was heartbreaking. My cohort will be there, and I think what I'm looking forward to the most is seeing what kind of shenanigans he gets up to with the Delta 17 group.
He's
really
working on the
enjoying
17 table, right?
He's going to be helping out, kind of pitch hitting so those guys can take a break. They've done some really cool stuff with Delta 17.
Absolutely.
It's O-ring, but it's a whole new line. It's got some really cool characters, some good storytelling. There's going to be a comic book. I'm excited for that. Beyond that, Marauders has been doing some fantastic stuff, and they keep teasing us with a Vietnam line that's going to be coming. Hopefully we'll see something at JoeFest from them on that, because some of those new body molds for the Vietnam era would be great for doing a 4-inch homage to the Adventure Team Joes, because a lot of those designs are what Joes were kind of World War II and Korean era, but there was a lot of Vietnam vibes too in their early uniforms. So looking for that. I'd love to see some Monster Force stuff. There's been a lot of delays with that. Hopefully Fresh Monkey is moving that on, because it's going to be a cool line. And of course, just whatever kind of random classic Joe or custom recreations are going to be there, because there's always somebody that brings something in the 12-inch that's either a custom uniform or a cool like a adventure set. So it'd be neat to see what people come with this year.
Awesome, cool. Ed, I know you'll be attending JoeFest this year, and you'll be my picker-upper, as I'm referring to him, because you'll be getting me the Delta 17 comic and getting that out to me, some things like that. But what are you personally excited for from the event beyond the friends, the connections?
Yeah,
but
besides
JoeFest
seeing
itself?
all the boys that like Lawrence was saying, I'm only going to probably get to see till the only time I'll be able to see him till next year. It'll be my first time meeting Ken from Toy Ken Connections of Delta 17. Probably the Monster Force table, I would say, is the thing I'm most looking forward to going and checking out. I've been really hyped up on that line since it was announced, and I know it's coming soon, so I'm getting excited for that. So I'll be really interested in that. And then just all the Joe and military action figure stuff. I mean, Comic-Cons are cool, but when you can actually go to a show that's really toy centric, it's always a blast just to go through the tables and see the old shit and just, like when I was at PowerCon last year, Ted had me looking for some visionaries, and I was, just looking at all the different tables and seeing some of these figures, and you're like, holy shit, I forgot that figure line even existed. You see some random thing, and it's just cool memories that come, and it's like, talk to people about, hey, I remember this, and it's all good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. It's kind of expanded, not just Joe, but Joe related, or anything within the action figure genre. There's probably something that'll pop up that'll pique your interest.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. And then Punk, you'll also be attending. I heard you're going to make a stop in Ohio on your way there because
I have one thing to add to that. I'm looking forward to heckling Punk on his panel during the JoeFest too.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Punk, I thought you were allergic to Ohio. You're not going to Ohio, are you?
I have to go through it. I mean,
oh no,
it's way too far to go from Michigan to get around Ohio on the way to Georgia.
I'm so sorry.
I got to go through it twice,
Dirty Buckeye State.
Awesome. So Joe, so Punk, you're going to be there. You're on a panel. Beyond, I mean, if that's your favorite thing you're excited for, that's great. Want to hear about that. But honestly, if that's not it, what other things are you?
Tony and I have talked about it. My biggest thing is just hanging out with everyone. I mean, there's a lot of things obviously I want to see. But just this friendship that we've made with so many of these people, I've met you and I've met Ed and, a few other guys, but this is going to be the one because I wasn't at PowerCon more than, one day. This is, over, 5 days. I'm getting in on Thursday. I'm staying with Aaron, the toy enhancer, and then we're not leaving till Monday. So, it's really just meeting everyone and having a good time. I said before, if someone reached out and said, hey, we're going to Iowa for a weekend and all of us are just going to go there, we're going to hang out at a mall and go eat, I'd be like, all right, let's go do it. So, to me, that's like the biggest thing. That's all I really care about. But when it comes to toys, it's a whole fresh monkey fiction. Now with this Monster Force, they have 2 figures that are going to be available that I'm going to try and get. And then obviously this new series that they're coming out with, which I think is actually going to be bigger than Monster Force. I think
the Order of the Crimson Moon.
I think people are more excited about that right now. And don't get me wrong, a lot of it has to do with they gave people a hooded Cobra Commander, and everyone's jizzing all over.
I think the Cobra Commander and the nod to the old Palatoy Action Force is what's really driving.
Baron Ironblood.
But I think those colors are just popping. Yeah, they are it's red, black, and white. That's all it is. They are just popping, but those head sculpts look so good. I'll be interested to see what Ramen Toys brings, because they have a lot of the military figure or military vehicles, not Savage Crucibles, Mythic Legions. They got to have something, right? They got to have some sort of con exclusive. So just that. And I guess one thing that Ed kind of just brought up was going through some of the old, going through some of the vendors and just seeing what they have, like old stuff. I didn't do that at all at PowerCon because I was, spending time with, the guys that I met. Ed and I ate some really nasty pizza. Well, I did, and then I gave Ed the rest of it, and he got to experience it.
Ed'll eat anything.
Sharing is caring. Makes it about the same as the mud I get in my mouth when I go play around in the dirt.
Nothing touched the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that I had at PowerCon, and I ate at a couple different places. But Ted over at Helidope Toys brought that peanut butter and jelly sandwiches out on Saturday, I think it was, and ripped me apart. Those were great.
I still haven't figured out why. I still haven't figured out why you're not going to JoeFest.
A lot going on this year, man. A lot going on this year. I got some stuff in order. Originally, I wanted to go to PowerCon, but that got delayed. I will definitely be making more. I know. So I'll be making more of a tour next year for that stuff. I will be at JoeFest next year. That I am confident of. And I'll have I'm planning to buy a table, so I fully plan to be on site there.
So, I also plan on using my mod to my best of my ability to send them out to do stuff.
I didn't know Matthew was going to be there.
Oh, I missed that one. Okay, because Matthew's at DFW, I think, and Ed's going to be at JoeFest. So Ed will be doing that. Okay.
I'm lucky that
the one
Matthew's
thing-
at DFW because he kicked my ass at JoeFest because I insulted him on Saturday night.
Fuck you, guy.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that you punk were as big into the fresh monkey fiction, especially the Crimson Moon stuff. I very much so started digging that, and I have a cart checkout in Big Bad right now for $979.73. So I can get one of all of the releases for both the Crimson Moon and the Monster Force stuff that I want.
And as far as like a spiritual successor for Adventure Team, Eagle Force is coming out with some bangers coming soon.
Yep, Eagle Force.
As a matter of fact, wasn't Fresh Monkey Fiction supposed to come out with a John Wayne Green Berets figure?
I never heard that.
They had I thought it was Fresh Monkey Fiction. They had a green beret. It wasn't John Wayne, but you could tell that it was John Wayne.
Yeah,
It was a Green Beret figure from the Green Berets, which was my favorite John
as
Wayne
part
movie.
of the Eagle Force line.
I think it was.
It might be still coming.
Maybe.
My
They
dad
released a lot of
cool-
homages. They have like the Mario Luigi. They have the Charlie Brown
Yeah.
homage. A bunch of different ones.
Mario.
Yeah, look at that.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Which one is that, Jeff?
Jack Walsh.
That's the Maverick based on one of my favorite movies as a kid, Megaforce.
Yep.
Nice.
Love this figure. I had to have it.
Wait, is that
Yeah, the
Fresh
Eagle
Monkey
Force stuff is
Fiction?
nice. I got a
What's
few
that,
of those.
Punk?
Is that the Fresh Monkey Fiction or is that the real metal one?
That's the Fresh Monkey Fiction one.
Okay, it's hard to tell through. We were talking to some people. I forget what show we were on. We were talking.
I think it
about
was a
those
Clubhouse.
original ones. Yeah, the Clubhouse, and someone brought up how much they hated those figures
Oh,
because in the winter when there was snowing, if you dropped it, it went right
Oh.
down, and there was no finding it.
the old ones.
I think
Oh,
Ed and I
yeah.
were like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like you're so
Do you-
right.
Yeah.
Those things were weapons. Those
Do you
were
guys
weapons.
remember the old Men at Work video that featured those figures?
No.
Yeah, had all of them in there. You can go back and look that up on YouTube. I can't remember the name of the song, but yeah, it's all stop motion.
Yeah.
So
I
so so that brings me to you, Jeff, and I know you're not attending JoeFest, and you know, a lot of the folks have been talking about items, and you know, without having, you know, that 1/6 scale being produced in mass by anybody major that I'm aware of, a lot of it will be third party stuff if you're looking for it. Maybe, and I know that your focus is typically on that, you know, that stuff. What are you looking forward to hearing about or seeing from JoeFest?
Well, it's real interesting because a lot of my friends in my community are probably going to DFW, which is probably since that's where Cotswold's located in Texas. That's going to feature more of the 1/6 scale stuff that I would probably buy. I know they're going to have some really cool exclusives. I don't know if I'll buy them just because some of that stuff is getting to be a little too expensive for my taste. And I don't really pay attention to either of the cons. Like, it's not really on my radar. I'll look and see if like Ed or Largo or somebody has like stuff on Instagram or whatnots where I usually get a lot of information on those. But I will tell you this. I collect some 1/12 stuff and some 7-inch stuff, and you know, like NECA Toys, Dungeons and Dragons, love those. I'm a big fan of Masters of the Universe Origins. I've bought some of these Sika Toys Eagle Force figures. I really think that's a really cool line, but I agree with everybody else. The Operation Monster Force and the Crimson Moon figures are one of the few toy lines that's came out in the last 3 to 4 years that I've looked at and said, "Damn, I could probably waste some money on that." I really enjoyed seeing the renderings and the paint samples and all that stuff on those toy lines. And you know, I was sitting there the other day at my desk at work, and I was just having one of those moments where I just was not focused on anything in particular, and I watched Bobby Vala's video series he did a month ago when he was debuting all these figures, and I really dug that Colonel figure that he came out with for his Eagle Force, or not Eagle Force, Action Force. I really dig the Van Helsing figure from Monster Force, and I really dig that. Is it General Washington from Monster Force? It comes with the Adventure Team commander head.
General Brown.
General Brown, sorry. And I thought to myself, you know what, man? I could make a pretty fucking dope adventure team with those guys. And I'm not really big into the 12th scale on any of those, but I think, you know, those are some really cool concepts I might have to explore. I know a lot of my buddies right now are doing the 3D printed G.I. Joe classic heads and flocking them and putting them on the classified bodies. That seems to be, there's a lot of guys who are, you know, throwing a lot of big dick energy out there with those figures.
Funny
now.
story, Jeff. Speaking of Angelo, build around.
Yeah, that's Angelo's all in. He's all in.
He lives in the same town as Travis. Him and Travis met at a con last year.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
he teaches at one of my kids' school too. So
Angel's great.
Small
dude.
world stuff, man. Yeah, he's very friendly to me.
I really love that Monster porcelain, and I just think those figures are really, really cool looking. Man, I would consider getting that in Crimson Moon and just
let's go.
And to making those some shelf queens in my office at work, where a lot of my small figures sit on my shelf at work because they're great conversational pieces. My Adventure Team stuff's home here where I do a lot of stuff with. But damn,
awesome.
I might have to grab a few of those. I think they're super dope, and I hope JoeFest, you know, they have a little more information on those. But I'll tell you another figure that came on my radar today. You guys might shit all over it, but I'm probably gonna get it. I really like that McFarlane Toys Sergeant Rock figure.
Yes.
I thought I have Slaughter.
Oh.
And I thought I think that Sergeant Rock figure would go great next to my classified Sergeant Slaughter figure because it's a big scale figure too.
Oh yeah.
So, I think that's dope.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of McFarlane figures, so that's the reason I dropped you there for a second.
Yeah,
Jeff. Just giving you a hard time.
I don't. You know, I'm not a fan of the figures. I'm just a fan of the characters, you know, like I'm one of those guys who like, I'll collect a character in different scales. I don't really give a shit who the manufacturer is, but I have one other McFarlane figure. I have the John Constantine figure. Love that comic, read that comic all through the 80s. But I would have loved to have the Mezco one, but it's just too damn expensive.
Did you get Sergeant Rock from the Dreams and Visions 1/6 scale? I know you got the Native American dude, but did you end up getting
I would
Rock?
love to have that whole set of figures because that's the best. That is the best toy rendition of Sergeant Rock that's ever been made.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, great head sculpt on that.
Yeah. So Jeff, I have a question for you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
because you're a 12-inch guy.
That's what she said.
Do you collect any of the modern G.I. Joe
like the 3-0 ones?
3-0 ones.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think they're really cool. But you know, it's like Sideshow Toys did a really good job with those figures. I thought those were really, really well done. I never bought any of them, but I thought they were super sexy. They were cool looking. And it's just like, you know, they're all cool, but they're expensive, you know, and I don't know what I'd do with them, you know. I mean, I display them maybe, but
look
they're
at
all
them more
cool
like look at them more display pieces than something you go out and
they're cool looking.
Storm Shadow, and I would love to get the rest of them, but I don't at that scale or have the room. But it's not something that I could see ever taking outside and doing anything with.
Yeah,
I don't even because of that price point.
See,
but
I have
I
have all the Sideshow collectibles, Clone Troopers and ARC Troopers and all those things, and those things are so fragile that, and that's how I feel about those other figures.
I have one of their Clone Troopers too, and they are definitely fragile.
They're super cool though. Do you remember the 1,000 Toys, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes? They're kind of like robot cyborg versions.
Yep,
those are super dope too. They did a Cyborg Duke. If you guys out there in the chats are familiar with those 1,000 Toys figures, I think the Duke was a con exclusive, maybe Comic Con, maybe. Those are super cool figures too, but they're pricey. The Snake Eyes is awesome looking.
Yeah, the Sideshow G.I. Joes I'd have that just like that Joe Colton, aka Land Adventurer statue that's coming out from Diamond Select.
Yeah, I bought that. I bought that one. It's based on the Coils of Doom set, which we'd all love to own. But
that's not out yet, though, right? That's still
flocked, right?
Yeah, he's flocked. It's going to come out this coming fall, I think.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this fall. Yep.
Yeah.
If I had deep enough pockets, the 3-0 Firefly is beautiful.
Oh yeah,
I love that design. It's really good.
Yeah, and they did the Snake Eyes, right? Was it the Ninja? It was not the Ninja Force Snake. It was the same Snake Eyes that was in the Hall of Fame line.
similar, and then
Yeah,
they
I have
did
all-
a camo version of Storm Shadow, and then a standard one, I think.
I have all the GI Joe Hall of Fame figures that were based on the Real American Hero line. I have all of them, every single one of them. I have the whole complete set of those. Never get rid of them. They're campy, and I love them.
Yep.
Good deal.
It got
Cool.
12-inch Joes back into the stores.
They
'cause
did.
That's the only reason we got Classic Collection after that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So then I got two more questions I'm going to go around the room with. I think we're back on you, Ed, to start. So the first question here is, how would you suggest or encourage our audience to participate in celebrating G.I. Joe's longevity beyond just going to like JoeFest or one of those conventions, but, you know, specifically with, you know, Yo Joe June, what would you recommend somebody getting into it and wanting to celebrate and enjoy?
So, you know, the first thing I would do is I would tell somebody that Classified has some really cool figures based on the Real American Hero, but Joe is so much deeper than that. And Lawrence, I think, has said it more than several times, and probably the best way to say it is there's a lot of G.I. Joe collectors out there that are only collecting G.I. Joe, and they have no idea about the actual toy world, whatever you want to call it, right? The action figure market. And if you get into, like, you know, a lot of us that are my age remember Super Joe. You know, it was only around for a year and a half, but I mean, you know, White Elephant Toys has Super Joe figures out there that are just like the originals, you know, for the most part. There's a ton of stuff. If you go to Cotswold Collectibles, that's 1/6 scale G.I. Joe related still. I mean, just get out past the, you know, all these people collect classifieds and then bitch that Hasbro isn't giving them what they want. And it's like, but Joe's world is so much bigger. He's been around for 60 years. I mean, it's like, go out there and explore. Even if you're not buying it, just go look at it, because there's a ton of awesome pictures on the internet, on Facebook, for the G.I. Joe 1/6 scale, you know, original Real American Hero 3 3/4 inch line. A lot of people do awesome photographs. And, you know, other than that, I would say take the damn toys outside, get them in the fucking dirt, and, you know, play with them.
From someone who was, thank you, Ed. So I can very much so preach from this stand that as a pro wrestling action figure, WWE action figure collector, there was never a reason to take my figures outside because they needed to wrestle in an arena and not outdoors. So I kind of carried that over to everything I collected, and I was just like, I don't want to get my stuff dirty. But when I got those Savage Crucibles in hand, and I've got those, you know, even the Mythic Legions, but, you know, the Savage Crucible, my, you know, AWOCs and the Masters of the Universe stuff that I started collecting all in scale with it, that fantasy, you know, world stuff, taking it outside gives us some really cool stuff. Putting those figures on some mossy trees is like one of the coolest things to do. And I mean, the Joes were built for that stuff just based on the things. And Punk, I saw you shaking your head in shock and awe. And we're going to go to you next on this, but you brought your stuff to Disney World. I think you're pretty badass, dude. I think you got this. I think you got this covevered. So, Punk, same question to you, brother.
Well, I would tell anyone they want to get into G.I. Joe, they need to get an aircraft carrier, the U.S. flag, and then see how many.
You're not a real Joe collector unless you got a flag.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
And then see how many Sky Strikers you can fill up on it. So it can just look exactly like Top Gun. You'll find out not many, especially with things always open. All right. I wanted to buy 5 of the HasLabs just so I could have them all lined up with the wings finally closed.
Holy shit.
I didn't.
Awesome.
No, I didn't. I did. I wanted to, but I didn't. I only bought one. That's what I had the money for. But that's what I want. If you've ever seen the aircraft carrier and the Sky Strikers, the wings are open when the landing gear is down. They take up a lot of space. For me, honestly, to get like, I would just tell someone if they like G.I. Joe, like, just pick something up. Whether it be go to an old toy store and pick up some of the old O-rings that you might like, or if you're, you know, if you're in Target and you see some of these figures, I have a feeling that a lot of people, a lot of dads might start seeing these retro cards. And I'm seeing them sitting out there at Target and in Walmart. That might be the thing that just gets someone to pick one up. It really does. Most of them do look pretty close. And those people that would just be buying it, they wouldn't be as anal as many of us about, like, that's the wrong rifle. He shouldn't have that. Now, I'm not really going to get into that. But yeah, just if it's something, I mean, if there's something with G.I. Joe that you like, whether it be a poster of Storm Shadow or whatever, just pick it up, you know. But like what Ed said, I really do believe that a lot of these GI Joe collectors, these people that are coming back into it, I would say half of them are not toy collectors. They are GI Joe collectors. They don't understand the whole toy universe. They see Super 7 and they go $55 for a figure. That is overpriced. They're not saying it's 50. They're not saying it's overpriced because of how crappy Super 7 are. They're saying that it's too expensive because they don't think it should cost that much. But it's like, hey, Mezcos are $100,
Yeah.
and they're worth it. They're worth every dime.
Yeah.
And you look at the sculpt and that. But it is hard because I think it's still that hard thing to get someone who used to play with stuff. Not every adult still thinks that collecting toys or playing with toys is something that is viable in this day and age. But it is. It's no different than collecting sports cards, or I said cards, not sports cars.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of us are
that
rich
too.
collect. Yeah, well, if you're rich enough to collect that, you can collect toys and put them in a room that no one will see.
Yep.
But cards, autographs, memorabilia, anything like that. But
Yeah.
pick up something that you like. And I think that works. I think it's worked for the Masters of the Universe people that have seen all that origin stuff just sitting there, and it's like, oh my god, look, there's He-Man and Skeletor.
Yeah, one thing I want to add to that, Travis, my answer is another thing, and I know Lawrence did this a little bit with his son, and I know Jeff does it a lot with his son, but like my son is 18 years old, going to be 19 in September this year, but he started playing with my Joes with me. He knows how to flock a GI Joe vintage action figure head just as well as I do, and that bonding that we had over it, right? He's already told me that. I mean, Dad, when you pass away, I'm taking all your toys. And I'm like, why? So you can sell them? He's like, no, so I can have them in my collection. He's got his own collection. He's got a couple of, every scale GI Joe figure in his collection as well. So it's like, that passing that on to the next generation is important, right? Because otherwise it's just going to die.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think to tie into a couple pieces there, right? The first piece to what you said is doing it with your kids. I have Son of Wonder, right? Named by Largo himself, right? Son of Wonder. I get out there with it. I bust the camera out because he's going on 13. We take our phones out, we set them up on, tripods, and we snap our photos together. He's taking his. He's got a little button clicker. I've got my watch. We're both trying to snap pictures. He's like, get out of my way, Dad. You're in my shot. Things like that. He's like, leave him there. So like, kind of spreading it out. Like maybe he's not like banging them around and playing them against each other, but he's out there taking it to that, more, teach him a skill, play with the phone. What can you do with it? Trying to hybrid that stuff and then educating him on how to do different things with tech and toys, right? And then, going back off what you said there was, memories, right? Like the fact that Punk introed on his memory and it was his dad in the store and, I'm sure, Punk, you could smell the cardboard. Like if you get a whiff of that, you're going to feel exactly like you were at that time when Dad was telling you, grab these two because you're going to need two vehicles and you're going to need two guys for those. Like that story that I think relates with any collector. And what I find interesting is Punk's perspective here, where he states, not all Joe fans, not all Joe collectors are toy collectors. And I think that's a great point. I've always played in the toy space, but I really was just a wrestling action figure collector. My wife and family that are close to me knew I collected toys, but it was really just the WWE action figures for the longest time for myself personally. But as I saw those Joes for the classifieds in the store, and I was like, it's got the articulation I love. I didn't mind the first iterations of Duke and Roadblock and all that stuff. I was fine with them. I was like, hey, I got Joe's in the scale I prefer with a ton of articulation I can play with. And I was like, oh, my kids do these legends, but I wouldn't say I was a toy collector at that point. I was just a wrestling action figure fan. And now I don't think it's I don't think it's possible to deny that I am completely just a toy collector because I get plastic in all shapes and sizes. So I think what Punk said with folks coming across those retro cards in the stores, I think they'll be more enticed to see someone like myself who wasn't necessarily a collector of toys to be like, oh, that's cool. That brings back that look and smell of my dad telling me to grab two toys and two vehicles. So you might see some increase in additional new, collectors coming back out of the woodworks that may have not been in the last 10, 20 years. So that's cool.
I've been sitting in the toy line or in the toy aisle where there's just a guy that's roughly my age. He's there with his kid or whatever, and he looks up and he sees a reaction G.I. Joe, and he grabs it and he goes, and I had a couple people say this, that they go, that's not what they were like when we were kids. They could move their elbows and their knees and everything. And I'm like, yeah, that's a whole different type of line. And I truly do believe that was the one reaction line that was never going to work. Not one kid ever said, boy, I really wish my G.I. Joes had articulation like Star Wars. Well, other than Brian Flynn, who said he actually likes that better, which is bullshit. Yeah.
He likes it better because it makes the bank account go up.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Good. Cool, Punk. Thank you. I touched on a bunch of stuff there. And then Jeff.
So, what I first would tell everybody is there's no wrong way to collect and like G.I. Joe. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. There's no wrong way to collect. There's no scale it's better than the other. G.I. Joe is G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe stretches from 1964 to today. And everybody who collected G.I. Joe from 1964 to today has a personal story, as we've all shared here. But I think the most important thing about G.I. Joe is that all of us in the community as collectors progress the hobby and progress collecting G.I. Joe so G.I. Joe stays around. And yeah, I agree with Punk about the Super 7 figures. But honestly, there's probably going to be maybe some kid, you never know, who's going to get a Super 7 5 points figure and become a G.I. Joe fan. G.I. Joe on the shelves, regardless of where it's from, is great for all of us. We all remember what it was like when there's no G.I. Joe on the shelf for a few years. And look, admittedly, I am not a huge fan of Hasbro or what Hasbro's doing. I'm not going to talk shit about them. I think they could be doing a lot more for the whole lore of G.I. Joe. I think they're doing it a disservice, from not incorporating all the lore into it and they're pleasing everybody. But man, the fact that G.I. Joe's on the shelves in any way, shape, or form is great for all of us. And I tell everybody, I mean, I'm unique in the fact that I remember Adventure Team. I had an uncle who had the 1964 Joes. I had 82, Real American Hero Joes. That first line of figures was beautiful. I didn't tell you guys this, but my brother Joel, 6 years older than me, I have all his 82 Joes. So I have everything. He had everything that came out in 82 and 83. So I've got his whole G.I. Joe headquarters. I have his Sky Striker. I've got his whale. I've got his figure case. I've got all of it. I've got the styrofoam hang gliders. I'm going to do a video on my YouTube channel one day with all that. It's all in mint condition.
wow.
But I just think that don't be afraid to like O-Ring. Don't be afraid to like Classified. Don't be afraid to like 1/6. Like it all. Appreciate what it is and appreciate what it stands for. It's an iconic toy. It's American. Don't want to sound crazy, but goddamn it, it's masculine. It's toxic masculinity. It's maximum, which I love. And goddamn it, let's drive this hobby off the fucking cliff. Let's do it. Let's just keep it going. And one last thing, stop fighting. I think that's one thing I do like about my little group of guys is we don't fight. We don't fight at all. And it breaks my heart to see people just fighting over shit. They're toys, and I'm almost 50 years old, and I ain't got time to fight over toys, man. Just love it for what it is. Share it with your friends. Meet up. Get out, play with them. Fucking Yo-Joe, right?
Yeah, I think
Yo-Yo.
like that.
That's perfect.
Lawrence has said it. I can't remember who said it to you, Lawrence, but like Lawrence tells it best, right? Like the internet's so funny because if you're at if somebody comes by your desk, Jeff, and you said your toys are a conversation piece, right?
Yep.
And they might go, "Oh man, I was so into Ninja Turtles when I was a kid," right? And you're going to be like, "That's cool, man. I remember Turtles and blah blah blah." Talk
they were
about toys,
dope,
right?
Yeah.
You say I'm into Turtles on the internet. Next thing you know, you're an asshole because you're not in the right group. It's like,
yeah, you're like,
the
what
hell?
are you doing?
Yeah, that was something that I had heard. I forget what his name was. I don't want to take credit for it. I forget his name, but he was on Dan Who, and he said, yeah, if you walk by someone that had turtles, you'd be like, oh, that's awesome. It's a conversation piece. But once you're on the internet, oh fuck you. Like turtles are fucking stupid. Like Well, you don't have to watch my show. You don't have to like them. You know, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
It's crazy how that is. You know,
Yeah.
but you know that's the world we live in.
That's where we're at, man.
It's
where we're at.
wacky.
Yep.
I mean,
I was
you
just
know,
waiting for you
Lauren,
to say God bless America.
that's right.
Yeah,
Lawrence
yeah.
and I are good examples. He's a big fan of Classified. I like Action Force, but we're still friends. We agree to disagree. There's
Fuck
some
you.
figures in Classified I love. I'm trying to be nice, Larry. God,
Wait till I start blasting you on Instagram tonight.
fine.
Yeah.
No. But, you know,
The competition between those two lines makes we all benefit.
it makes
from it.
better figures for everybody.
We benefit. All of us
I agree.
benefit from it.
Yeah.
You know.
You can like both. It's not
Yeah.
illegal, you know.
So
For me, to answer this question, I'd say as an adult, explore the lore. Learn about Classic Joe. Where did it come from? Learn about, you know, what happened in 1963 that changed the toy market forever. You know, I was joking with the guys earlier today. This is the prototype. This is where it all started. You know, when Don Levine saw this at an art store after talking with, Stan Weston, the guy who brought us Captain Action, who's a cousin to Joe.
Yeah.
You know, it started with that imagination and it just blew up and it was super cool. And there's so many, you know, rabbit holes you can go down, and, you know, the connection between Joe and what happened with the Japanese toy market. You know, there's a 6 degrees of separation kind of thing that brings us back to Micro Man, and then the Micronauts, and then back around to the super articulated, you know, Real American Hero Joes. They're all interconnected. It's cool. I think knowing that lore and respecting the history of it gives you a better appreciation for the toys today and how we got here. And,
I love that.
A lot of
I love
guys in the chat have been talking about toy photography. For adults, that's our, you know, it's one of our main ways to play is to set up some great shots, you know, find some cool locations or create some dioramas. Have fun with your toys.
Absolutely. No, and I love that statement with the, you know, the whole, you know, the lore aspect of it, Largo, because I think that's what I always fall back on is the lore.
Yeah.
I love my comics. I love the cartoons. I love something with a backstory. I do like to explore it in my own perspective, but give me a foundation to kind of enjoy and digest on my, when I'm not outside or I'm not playing with the toys is cool too. So love the lore. So, you know, that's huge. And Punk, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, Largo, you said something about like understanding the history. Go and watch the Toys That Made Us on Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Sure.
I mean, every single episode, and I mean the Barbie episode, the Lego episode, they are amazing. You know, they're awesome. Yeah.
I haven't watched them, but you just inspired me as soon as I end up off the stream tonight.
The Star Wars one, G.I. Joe, the Motu one is amazing when you realize how much money they made in She-Ra.
Yeah,
Yep,
and
love
you know, I have some timers, but one that just popped into my head, JLS Comics, a friend of ours, does some great backstories on the Real American Hero guys. He goes through the file card. He says, this is who this guy was in the comics, in the toy line. Great videos. So yeah, there's great stuff out there.
Yes.
That's awesome. Cool. So, you know, that's awesome. And all of the other questions and answers have been tremendously cool to hear. You know, obviously it gets everybody into, you know, understand where you came from, your background into Joe's and what you're looking forward to with this Yo Joe June and whatnot. But, and, you know, we may have kind of covered some of this, but I'm just going to do around the world here. Start with you, Jim, and then work our way backwards. What are your final thoughts? It might just be a piggyback off of what you just stated, but is there any other final thoughts you want to give, you know, relating to the legacy of Joe and the personal connections that you have with the brand?
42. 42 is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. I learned that from Douglas Adams.
That's right.
No,
Hitchhiking
Joe is
across the
fun.
universe.
There is somewhere to get in and where you fit in with Joe, whether it be the originals, the Super Joe, the Real American Hero, or Classified. There's some great stuff. And as far as customizing, make your own figures. That's a thing.
Awesome. Jeff.
You know, I just want everybody to keep doing their shows, talking about it, because the more you talk about it, the more people find out about it. I would love for the boutique toy companies to keep making really cool scales. I think you guys are really driving the hobby. I would love for Hasbro to do like a Legends of G.I. Joe line where it encompasses every era of G.I. Joe from 64 to Adventure Team to Super Joe to Sergeant Savage. All those really amazing lines. Maybe some weren't great, but God damn it, classified. Give me a Super Joe classified figure so I don't have to keep building these things.
I love that.
I really want the hobby to keep going no matter what, and we just need to keep it going and expose it to your kids, expose it to your friends' kids, because we need less kids playing video games, more kids playing outside.
That's
Bring
awesome.
back Adventure Team.
Bring back Adventure Team. Really, we should. I mean, especially right now.
So we're going on 2 hours, right? And we've talked about all the different periods of time. It's just, but why have I not heard of anything about G.I. Joe Extreme, guys?
Oh, hey man, hey,
it's a line like that's when I was a kid.
Wasn't Sergeant Savage was in there, right? He was a member of G.I. Joe Extreme. Yeah, I had all the Dark Horse comics. I thought they were really good.
Sergeant Savage was basically a Sergeant Rock knockoff. I mean,
he was.
The figure was designed.
He even had Andy Kubert, I think, was doing some
Andy Kubert
box art.
Yeah, amazing box art. Cool.
Yeah, I had a couple of the figures in the Jeeps.
I had the original figure. Yeah.
Awesome.
That
so
P-51 Mustang was dope.
Yeah.
Punk, final thoughts, brother.
So the legacy of G.I. Joe is they are the one line that reinvented toys twice.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They did it. Point. I mean, they created action figures. They found a way to make dolls cool for boys. They didn't classified. All Classified did to begin was kind of take the O-ring and move it into a different scale. The 82 Joes, the Real American Hero, completely changed what they did, but not in that I'm rebooting Ghostbusters with a bunch of females, right?
Yeah.
Where it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't work. I think the legacy is just it's going to be a military line, and I've been at my toy store, and I've watched 13-year-olds come in and go right to the G.I. Joe section and look at everything that's there. Kids are going to collect it. There's a lull right now in patriotism, right?
Patriotism.
It'll come back.
Words are hard. I know.
Words are very hard.
Harder words.
You see me try and read. I'm gonna start telling people I'm dyslexic. Maybe
Do you wear a helmet when you skateboard? People wonder.
I don't ever hit my head.
Have you ever seen that meme where the kid says, "I got my helmet and my crayon sharpener, I'm ready for the day"? That's Lawrence.
But I think the legacy is safe. The one thing that Lenny has talked about is that if they don't create new characters and new figures, it will go away. But he's also talked about how he wants to pick up figures. Like, I hated the Sergeant Savage, but I think Sergeant Savage would be a really cool classified figure. It has an awesome look. It's Sergeant Rock, like you said.
Yeah.
It is a knockoff Sergeant Rock, okay? And we have a whole nother line, Valverse, that does knockoffs. But it's fine because, hey, Marvel copies off DC and DC copies, that's life, right? So I think that's the legacy. But you have the personal connection to the brand. Again, a lot of it goes back to you've heard the flag story. I'm not going to tell it again, but all of that it goes back to before my mom passed away, and her coming home from Kmart with a figure, and she's looking for one that I didn't have, or my dad. I'm literally asking my dad the first time I saw a commercial if I can get one. He said, we'll see. He already knew that he was going to buy me one. And, again, going back to the flag where all this.
All good, Jeff?
I had to go take a piss.
Oh, okay.
I drank 2 beers.
You're better now.
That was the shortest piss I've ever seen.
Buddy, I powered through it.
He just stepped outside and went outside. Oh, good.
Yeah, some super strong stream. Just
doesn't even have to aim when you go outside.
I do not have the stream of a 5-year-old, but I got a decent one for 49.
But yeah, it's just it's one of those things where my connection to it will always be there because it's going to take me back to my childhood before my mom passed away when she would get me stuff. It's the same with skateboarding. It's always going to be there for me. It just means so much. And I can't even explain, in words, what it actually means to me, my connection, but.
Awesome. Ed, in closing on you, last go here. Final thoughts.
So my final thoughts are this, right? Most guys that are the panel's age, right? 45 to 55, let's say. And even the guys that are older that are collecting the 112th military or the 1/6 scale military line from G.I. Joe from the 60s and stuff, right? There is such a deep-rooted love for that line. And I think it probably far exceeds any other toy line, except for maybe like a Barbie or something like that, right? But the people that love G.I. Joe truly love G.I. Joe. And you could get any group of Joe collectors on a stream, just like this one, and we could all share stories back and forth that are very similar but very unique at the same time. And that's just G.I. Joe, right? It's such a deep-rooted lore, especially those of us that are like me and Largo and a little bit of Jeff, who started with the Adventure Team and went through Super Joe, and then all the way through the Real American Hero line until it is. It's like it's just such a deep-rooted thing that I can't even explain. Like when I see or take out like one of my Adventure Team figures, like my custom Land Adventure, what kind of feeling that still gives me to this day of just taking it outside and getting him dirty. And, I don't worry about his uniform getting dirty because it can just be washed, man. And it's just the way it is.
Awesome. So with that said, first I want to thank everyone, all the attendees, Punk, Jeff and Largo for, joining in and providing all of this very, insightful and, personal, details around the Joe collection, celebrating Joe June, Yo Joe June. And in that, before I go to the next slide, I'm just going to say, you maggots, knowing's half the battle. And that's kind of where I live on the Joes, right? With my Sergeant Slaughter reference there, and then, knowing's half the battle. So now we know.
And you know what? You can take your ass and go stuff it in an itty bitty ditty bag, okay? Because nobody cares.
Awesome. So thank you guys. And then before we sign off here, I want to thank the audience and everyone for jumping in. I was keeping up on the slides. Remember to go check out A Punk with Toys. He's got like 17 different channels with all sorts of different opportunities to check out his material. You've got Skunkworks Studios. It sounds like he's going to have some cool, burial or unburial,
treasure hunt. That is a true
hunting.
Treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Or Blair Witch Project style, video looking for an action figure. And then we got Largo coming up with, continuing to expand his stuff. I'm sure he's got some stuff coming up. So check out his show. Thank you, the three of you. Next week, Ed and I will be back. And ToyLeet Takeover will be discussing collecting on a budget, how to find deals and save money. This isn't going to just be Ollie's and Ross. There's going to be a bunch of other things we talk about. So looking forward to talking about that.
Hey, should we do this again next year for Joe Lana? I think this would be a great annual thing.
Let's do it.
Get five knuckleheads on here talking about Joe, man. I think this is a really fun time.
Yeah, I have
as
no
long
plans.
As long as we don't talk about McFarlane, I'm good.
Well, hey, we could talk about the G.I. Joe page punchers from McFarlane.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd rather not, though.
No.
Yeah,
Awesome.
let's do this. I think we should do it next year.
Yeah, I have a game. That sounds like a great time.
Hey, and also
we'll take a look at it.
Also, hey, I'd love to come on sometime when you and Ed are talking wrestling figures. I'm a huge wrestling fan.
We can do it. I love me some wrestling.
Hey, Jeff, you don't want to get on a stream with Travis talking about wrestling.
Oh, we can probably sit and nerd out.
Jeff, not only did I have.
Uh-oh.
Oh no! He's gonna tell us about WrestleMania 3 and the body slam heard around the world.
Come on, let him tell the story.
Tell his story.
Go for it, Punk. I love you, brother. You know I'm giving you a hard time.
Not only did I have the USS flag, I also went to WrestleMania 3 with 93,173 of my best friends.
That's amazing.
Cool.
That's great.
and you got to see Hulk Hogan slam Andre the Giant.
I get,
And watch.
You know what? Don't even give me. I talked about this the other day. I still get chills anytime I watch the old promos of Hulk Hogan accepting the challenge.
I do too.
Talking about
wrestling,
slamming him in Pontiac. Like
you're talking my language.
Right,
I just introduced
next week live. The same panel will be here to talk about WWF.
Hey, Punk.
Let's talk about wrestling and tell me why your favorite character is the Iron Sheik.
Punk, I just
because I'm going to humble you.
I just introduced my son a couple weeks ago to Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, nice!
And he is right now. We've been going down YouTube watching his promos. He wasn't my favorite wrestler, by the way, but he's
entertaining.
Is the boy doing the cream of the crop stuff and everything?
He's trying to do the voice, but
yeah.
It's just like I laugh.
Ooh, yeah, I can see him running around with a bandana and doing that to you.
Yeah, yep.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Good deal, guys. Well, that's it for this week, guys. Thank you very much, and here we go.
Now, but remember this. Let your toys breathe. Let's do this. Toys on the desk.